So here's my most triumphant moment.
This is Marialisa. She's the author of a cookbook and co-author of 3 more cookbooks. She's written a syndicated food column appearing in over 500 newspapers nationwide for over 20 years. And her work has been published in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Gourmet, Martha Stewart Living, Food and Wine, Smithsonian, Washington Post. You get the idea. She's a well-established food writer.
I have to set this up because it followed a very untriumphant moment, which was the best part. I have a friend, who shall remain nameless, who wrote a cookbook, and it was called Beat This, and it was supposed to be the best recipes for, chocolate chip cookies and brownies and pot roast and whatever. And she was doing a follow-up called Beat That, and she put out the word that she wanted people to submit their best recipes. So I submitted my mother's apple crisp recipe, which we grew up on. I really love it. I get a copy of her book. It has my mother's recipe in it, and she had run it under the name of Very Controversial Apple Crisp. And it says, I don't think this is really apple crisp.
The controversy is that some people in my family prefer the apple crisp and Beat This to the one here. If Marialisa says this recipe is better, well, at least she must think so, and so must the friends she told me about who are always thanking her for having passed it on. So, on the chance that other people will prefer this apple crisp to mine, I humbly bow my head and offer it here.
And I was just, furious.
Talk about a begrudging endorsement. But the story doesn't end here.
About 10 years later, she came out with a second edition of Beat That. And I got a review copy. I left it on the unopened on the table. I wasn't even going to look at it because I didn't want to be humiliated again. And about 6 months later, I found it. I opened it. I looked up the recipe. And in her second edition of the book, it was called
Not Controversial at All Apple Crisp, as it turns out.
And she said,
the controversy, explained in my cookbook Beat That, was that some people prefer this recipe to the one that appeared in Beat This, or so I thought. It turned out that everyone prefers this recipe. My friend Denise made it for her husband Peter, who took one bite and said there is no controversy, so thanks to Marialisa Calta for setting me straight.
So that was my triumphant moment. I don't know if it was my most triumphant moment, but it was a real triumph.